and the Spice Isle Imaging Center.
Good evening once again, folks, and welcome to Doctor on Call. Yes, indeed, it's a pleasure as always. We have been able to, hopefully overcome the internet issues that we've been experiencing, and so we are happy that we can have our live program this evening. Last week I told you Dr. Nixon will be with us. She took a little break. Not a little, that's a long one. Way too long. I missed her. She's back with us this evening, folks, and all excited. Dr. Nixon, good evening and welcome back.
Good evening, Godfrey, but I can't see you.
I realize that, but we're gonna work on that shortly.
Okay.
My technicians are doing some stuff, and so they're gonna work on that in a little bit. I'm on the screen though, but we're gonna sort that part out shortly.
Good evening to Grenadiers. I'm happy to be here. I haven't gone anywhere. Just giving other people who have a lot of information to share an opportunity to share what they know in order for us all to be healthy. Actually, this evening I'm broadcasting I'm with you from the wonderful Blue Horizons Garden Hotel. Wonderful place to be. Wish more Canadians would come here. It's really beautiful.
Oh, fantastic. That's lovely. That's lovely indeed. Yeah. So, Doc, this evening, actually it's the first time since our health forum.
Yes.
Yes, we did promise that we were bringing back all the doctors to go into more details on some of the areas that we discussed, and we have been doing that. In fact, last week we had Dr. Sonia Frame, going a little deeper into public health. Before that, it was Dr. Ford, and before that, we had Dr. Panchu and everybody else. So it's good to have you back. And this evening, it's kind of special because we're talking about men's health through the cycle. Very, very, very important topic indeed. And I'll tell you, Dr. Nixon, this one will be followed next week in the same vein, because we'll be having Dr. Robert Yearwood joining us, a urologist. So we'll be touching on some heavy stuff, yes, as it relates to our menfolk. So, gentlemen, I hope you tuned in, and ladies too, because sometimes, we men need a little nudging to, pay attention to our health.
The studies actually show that men who are married are more likely to visit the doctor.
Right. I wonder why. Is there a reason for that?
Because wives nag. I'm joking.
No. I was about to ask you if wives rule their husband. So if you say you have to go to the doctor, you have to go.
No, she encourages you, and if she's staying well, you want to stay well. Remember that no man wants to die before his wife. Okay.
Oh, definitely.
The thought of another guy marrying her. But seriously, the studies show that men who are married are more likely to go to the doctor, to go for their checkups, to go following all the time their routine checks. Like if you have high blood pressure already, you actually will go to the doctor when the time is due. You had diabetes, time for your prostate screening, they will do that.
Yes.
More than men who are unmarried, even though they live together with a woman, and men who just not in any real committed relationship as per cohabitating.
Right, wonderful indeed. But Doc, before we get to the men thing, I want us to go back a bit, to backtrack a bit, because growing up as boys, you tend to get the feeling that boys are allowed to do a number of things and not the kind of attention then that are given to our girls. it's a little less for the boys in that they tell you, well, hey, you have to grow up, you have to be a man, you have to get tough. So a boy falls down, bruises his knee, it's a different story. You have to get tough. If it's a girl, they would kiss up the bruise and oh, daddy, baby, and all of these things. And so I don't know if that is maybe one of the reasons why our boys grow up with this sort of ego thing that they can deal with whatever comes. So I'm getting a pain in my chest or in my back. Well, that is gas. That's going to pass, and I'm going to deal with it rather than going to see a doctor and ensuring that everything is all right. So let's start there, and then we would come up the road.
Go back and forward, right?
Yes.
So that's a very good point, because especially like in adolescence, from 9, 10 up, right? Or boys start having a lot of changes, and that is the whole testosterone, and they start being different and start see the girls and start, we tell the boys, go to that way, come on to my side, go outside, why don't you go, why don't you do this? And then he crying, I'm taking like a man. So boys in that age actually do not learn how to process their emotions, their feelings in general, because we tell them this was not, pretend it doesn't happen. So if your puppy dies, you're not allowed to grieve the normal, like a girl could lie down in bed for a week because her dog dead. If your puppy died, you bury him and you're going to pay for all of the guys. The guys are not often, and that's not just in Grenada, this is just all over the place. Guys are not often, the boys are not often allowed to process themselves. But then, they have testosterone, that hormone, the male hormone, that makes them have other interests. They're more risky. You ever see girls jump in the river when the river going down? No, boys do that though. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You ever see girls riding cars on a busy street? No, boys do that. Okay? You ever see girls swinging across the river on mind your crusher rope and don't care whether they fall in the river and break their back on a big stone? No, but boys do that. So boys tend to be having more risky behaviors. And a lot of those things, because we don't kind of guide them, and they really need guidance when they go into that phase. So they feel, we survive, we'll survive again. And then they forget. We don't guide them along as the girls do.
Right. And of course, we start growing up, we get to be teenagers, the body starts changing, the interest starts changing, you start doing all different things. And so your health still seems to be on the back burner, throughout. What are some of the concerns that should be given attention, Doc, as it relates to our males as they now get into their teenage years and going to adolescence? What are some of the health concerns that should be given attention?
One of the things we have to remember is that a lot of diseases will start from how we behave in childhood, okay? When we're small. How we eat, whether exercise or not, whether we start smoking, whether we drink, whether we do drugs, right? How the family eats, for that matter. How, what are your social relations? What happens at your house? All of those things predispose you for what your adult life is going to be, right? And our boys are often, not all the time, but are often kind of left to fend for themselves without real guidance. So they're going to have and smoke, of course, which is bad. You start smoking at 14. You start having challenges to your arteries and develop atherosclerosis very early, much earlier. You're drinking, you're not sleeping sufficiently, or partying, you're doing substances, and of course they tend not to eat properly, right? So the time when you really should be building up your body, at adolescence is when you're getting muscle and your body's growing and it's growing fast. So you need proper nutrition, right? But if you don't eat proper things, yes, you'll grow, but you will be growing healthy, right? The other diseases that kids have that we don't really pay attention, like a boy going up with asthma might start smoking and develop long-term respiratory diseases. In a family where there's hypertension, a child who has diabetes, we may miss it. So an adolescent boy needs as much. An adolescent means young, 9, 10 into like 19, 20, 21, some people go further, right? Need the support and need guidance, need to be seen regularly by the physician, because sometimes there are diseases that manifest themselves earlier. You don't want them to go into the adulthood having had diseases that they could have had control over. Because we know that men often die from diseases that they could have controlled or prevented. Okay? Men often die. Hypertension and cardiovascular diseases, prostate cancer, those are all lifestyle diseases. And those are all diseases, if diagnosed early and managed, you can have a very long life. But men go ahead and they have hypertension and they have heart attacks. I was looking at the death records for Grenada for last year, for 2020. And, cancer is still our number one killer, right?
Yeah.
So I think 168 people died from cancer in Grenada in 2020. And probably about 2/3 of that population were men. But guess what? What is men's number one cancer? Prostate, right?
Prostate, yes, indeed.
Right. So the prostate cancer is something that if you diagnose early, you can get rid of. Okay? Because prostate cancer goes very, very slowly. But if you start screening when you're 60, 70, probably 60, 65, you probably already have prostate cancer. That's slowly growing. And unfortunately, it might go out of the limits of the prostate and into other tissues. But had you been screening from 40, which is a recommended age, you'd find that you can have it and take care of it and live a long, healthy life. So.
Indeed. And, we continue. And aside from the smoking and probably the drinking, which, and I think, Doc, let me just go back a bit. As a young guy, as a teenager growing up, you saw men smoking and drinking. And as a little fella, you got the impression that this is what makes you a big man. So big people, because there was a time when children were not involved in things like that. That was something for big people. So a big man, when you're a big man, you are allowed to smoke because, smoking goes with big man. That's big man thing. Drinking goes with big man thing and all of that. And so a lot of young fellas, they would probably teeth a chance and they probably get a little piece of something, a piece of stick and light it and smoke it because they want to play big man and all of these things.
That's it.
Yeah, but now it's a completely different thing. You see children consuming alcoholic beverage. A couple Sundays ago, I went to, I was driving through the Hope area. There was some cricket there. And I saw some young guys, drinking and carrying on. And I'm like, wow, and I thought they were young, but I thought maybe, so I just passed it off. Last week, I went to Grenville, and one of the young guys I saw drinking was wearing school uniform. He was wearing school uniform. And I'm like, what is this? And I think at that stage, when these things happen, it is just the start of the things that will affect our health down the line.
But that's what I'm saying. Once you start to do those, especially do those kind of behaviors so very early, then the challenges come. Then you set up yourself for long-standing disease. That by the time you check it, especially if you're not going to the doctor, you're already very ill. By the time you realize you have high blood pressure, you already have heart problems. Especially like if you've been smoking and if you're drinking.
Yes.
So, if you're smoking and if you're drinking, you already set up yourself. But I want us to go back. When we are talking about women's health, we went from the womb to the tomb. Because I think we have to also consider our male health as a product of who makes you, where do you come from. Do you have a mother who is smoking or drinking or doing drugs? We know about those babies who born with alcohol withdrawal syndrome and other things. But your father might be smoking or he might be doing hard substances and he produces a sperm that is half of you. And maybe you can have challenges too, problems with your brain and stuff in development. So we have to ensure that children are born what should I say, created in very healthy spaces. A healthy mother and brought up by a healthy father in an environment where a child is wanted. And I'm not being idealistic. That's what we would like to see for our children, right? A couple plan to have a child and they have a healthy child. Mother prepares herself, father makes sure he's not in state of health so they can have a healthy baby. And they screen for diseases like sickle cell. So if mommy has a sickle cell trait, then daddy should make sure he doesn't have sickle cell trait. Not that I can get rid of it, but we should know what are the possible outcomes. But that mother has a healthy pregnancy. A pregnancy that's diagnosed very early, long before the 3rd month. I like 6 weeks. Once you've missed a period, you really should go see the doctor. That's the ideal. And doing your proper antenatal follow-up. Your pre-delivery follow-up. That's very, very important. Because you want this child to be born healthy, and you also want this boy to be born in a hospital, like it's a legal thing to happen in Grenada. You want your child to be born in a hospital. In a hospital, because it's a safe, healthy place. And you want your child to have breastfeeding from day one, right? Which is what? Like we talked about, the World Health Organization says 2 years of breastfeeding. First 6 months of exclusive breastfeeding. Well, that's something we can do with a little effort, unless the mother doesn't work. But we have, 3 months of maternity leave? So that gives at least halfway. I know lots of people pump milk and save it in the freezer and can give to the baby so he can get full breastfeeding for the 6 months. And of course, after that, you introduce other foods and you can decrease on the breast milk. But first 6 months is breast milk alone, right? So you want this healthy child who gets all his vaccines, who grows up in a house where there's running water and there's electricity and there's proper roads and there's access to school and there's education and there's proper food and vegetables and his parents don't drink and encourage him to drink when he's 3 years old, and who doesn't live in an environment that's violent where you have gunmen running in the night and you have prostitutes outside the street so the children are diverse, and you have good spiritual upbringing. I don't care which religion I'm talking about spiritual upbringing for your children. Those are the things you want for our boys, so they grow up in an environment of stability. You don't want intimate partner violence. Your father mustn't be beating your mother or vice versa. You want to see harmonious, and people disagree and agree, and solve problems in a healthy way. You want your child to start school in a proper environment where he must have access to all that he needs. He may not need everything that's possible that exists, but what he deserves, that little boy may have, right? He must have a family that supports him, that don't tell him, go, boy, come on today, and put him down and make him sad and don't see when he's not doing well, to check what his mental health is correct. We have to do all of this for our boys, okay? Just like we did for our girls. It's very, very important. But when boys start to change, they change differently. Once it gets into that adolescence and they start to produce testosterone, that is a male hormone, their lives change. They grow big, they get sexy, they want every girl because the hormones make them feel like they're very attracted to girls, they start to look physically different. They're very self-conscious because their voice will change and break back and all the rest of it. But those are things, and they need support during that time. They're likely to get into gangs and follow their peers. Very, very easy. That's some of the risky behaviors. And like I say, driving fast and doing all the crazy things. But adolescent boys, we have to be careful about them using substances. We have to be careful about how they eat, and we have to be careful about them smoking. Right? Because those are things they can do out of the vision of their parents. Right? We've seen some videos in the last couple of months with our young men and down on the waterfront behind NIS building, and all
violence, yes.
Right? The unsavory behavior, right? Sad but unsavory behavior that they demonstrated. We don't want our children to be living like that. They don't deserve to be living like that. That's like wild animals' life. But children deserve a lot more attention and something to do after school, occupation, something that makes them feel good about themselves. And we have a responsibility as adults to provide all of that for our children. And for our children, as a nation, we have to make sure that our children are happy. Everybody has a right to school as far as he can go, right? So we have to make sure that their mental health is good. Look for the signs. Look for your son who becomes very withdrawn. Look for your son who his notes are starting to drop in school. Teacher calls and says he's not doing his work. Instead of cussing him, figure out what's going on. The child might be mentally ill. He might be having problems. He might be being bullied. He might be doing substances. You don't know what it is. And like I said, he might have mental illness. We don't want to miss that. Because if you miss mental illness in a boy early, it's not going to be pretty. Okay? So those are the things. And as a society, we have to open our mind to, especially in the case of mental health and mental illness. First of all, we have to preserve the mental health of our young people. And second of all, we have to make sure that when they become ill, that they can be treated early and properly, wherever the treatment is.
Right, wonderful. Doc, the issue of education, where does that fall in there, in the development of our boys and ensuring that, because I do believe a proper education can also influence how healthy our boys grow.
Yeah, but remember, the education is way beyond academia, okay? But what we know is that education, the more educated populations are actually more likely to seek help, to have health-seeking behaviors. So the man who is educated, who has a corporate job, or might be an accountant, or might just be a worker, but he's educated, will be more likely to understand the information that's shared with him, will be more likely to decide to make decisions, to go get screened for prostate cancer, to check his pressure because he knows his uncle had high blood pressure and father, or a man was telling me today, he didn't know what it was. Excuse me. He didn't know what it was. But remember, Tanti, this one had one foot, and this one was blind, and this other one always had a sore, and it turned out that everybody was diabetic. And it's him growing up as a child, and he didn't even know. So you want to be able to appreciate information, right, through education. Being able to read and write is important. We also know that people, the less educated population, have a lesser tendency to seek out health care. Okay? You hear people talk. People tell me that breast cancer can't catch them. Okay? No, doctor, the mental ill. That can't catch me, doc. I drink rum. That's it. The rum will burn out any cancer cell that come in my body. You know? Because they don't understand. Because they're uneducated. They're not as educated as she. So it is important that we ensure that the boys get the education they need. Like I said, beyond academia, cultural education to grow up understanding, how society runs, to adhere to rules, to try to fall within societal norms, so that they are regular citizens. And regular citizens do things that are good for their health and their well-being.
Right, wonderful. Doc, I have quite a few more questions I want us to look at, but it's almost time for our first break, so let's just take it, and when we come back we would go into the later years with men and around the time when some of these health issues start to present themselves. So stay with us, folks. We'll be back in just a moment.
When a loved one passes on, we all need the comfort, support, and guidance of a trusted friend. You can rely on LaCour Brothers Funeral Home. We provide a personalized professional service that exceeds all expectations. Our dedicated staff responds to your every need with the greatest detail, ensuring affordability with a variety of options. Upgraded state-of-the-art facilities, spacious air-conditioned chapel with live internet streaming, a modern, environmentally safe crematorium, the only of its kind on island, private viewing spaces, large on-site repast center, a modern transportation fleet. Join our burial society today and make personalized arrangements for that final moment as you prepare to enter your loved one into eternal rest. Visit or call LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and select a package that brings added comfort to the entire family. LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and Burial Society, continuing a tradition of excellence.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so glad to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our
Quintillion Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Here is a little known fact. There is only one place in Grenada that you can get an MRI scan done. That place is Spice Isle Imaging Center. Yes, Grenada, that's the truth. Other centers could offer you other scans, but Spice Isle Imaging provides an authentic MRI scan. Here's another little known fact. Spice Isle Imaging has 3 centers. We operate at Grenville, the Carnage, and at the Ocean House, Grand Anse. We provide the widest range of laboratory tests and services. CT scans, x-rays, mammograms, ultrasounds, and a host of other services. We are fully staffed by a team of family doctors and specialists. Call us today at 444-7679. or 406-1500, or visit any of our 3 locations. Spice Isle Imaging, from seeing the doctor to getting lab tests, scans, and pharmacy services. We are here to take care of you.
Get Ruby Gas. Get cooking. Ruby Gas, clean, safe, and reliable LPG is the perfect solution for your commercial and everyday needs. For cooking at home or barbecuing, choose Ruby Gas LPG cylinders. Available in a variety of sizes from 20 to 100 pound cylinders. Ruby Gas LPG, clean, safe, reliable. Are you cooking with Ruby Gas? Get Ruby's, get going.
If there was ever a time to keep and stay healthy, it's now. We at Hills and Valley are here to help you take deliberate steps to maintain your health. We stayed true to maintaining the most comprehensive rates while stocking the widest range of medicines and health devices, including personal protective equipment. There are so many benefits shopping with us. You get great savings through discounts for senior citizens and reward cards for loyal customers. Ask about owning yours today. Visit us at Halifax and Grenville Street, St. George, Jubilee Street opposite the Grenville Bus Terminal, and at Hillsborough, Carrico. Our wholesale distribution on Halifax Street also stocks the widest range of pharmaceuticals. We are with you on the hills and in the valleys. We are Hills and Valley Pharmacy.
Welcome back. It is Doctor and Call. We're looking at men's health through the cycle. Dr. Nixon, at what age, or approximately, around what age should men start, seriously paying attention to their health? We've heard things like, after 40, your sight is going to start to go. You're going to start to feel little aches and pains, different part of your body. You're going to feel something juking you there, juking you here, and all these little things. Whether or not these are signs of things to come, I don't know. And of course, we appreciate that health is something that should be given attention from a very early age. But generally, around what, 40, 30?
So I spoke about boys, little boys, toddler boys, little school boys, high school boys. So one of the things that we have taken control of is infectious diseases, okay? Pneumonias, things that pass on easily, like measles, mumps, rubella, all of those things, right? Get your first hepatitis B vaccine when you're in the hospital, when you're born, right? And you get your rest of your vaccines by the time you're 6 months. So there's a program of vaccinations of boys, and this is important. That mothers make sure that their children have their vaccines, so they don't grow up with the possibility of getting any disease that we can prevent. It's about preventing what you can. And even when you go to school, when you're going into high school, so as you get to boost up for your paid tests, all of those things are very important. I think boys' health must be taken care of at all stages. Let me tell you, if your mother starts giving you all the fatty food and stuff from very early, you're gonna have high cholesterol when you're a teenager. There's no two ways about it, right? If you start drinking alcohol from early, you're gonna have problems to deliver by the time you're 10, 20 years. You're gonna have problems. So I think every phase of your life is as important, especially is equally is important in preventing challenges in the other years. Right? So your child grows up, he goes to the health center, you give him good nutrition, that's one. When he starts going to school, some of us forget that we have to monitor what the boys eat. And they eat crap, and they drink soda, they drink sweet drink, that's what they drink. So we have to ensure that our boys have good nutritional practice in the early life, They're still, child, every year, parents should make sure that the children get seen by the doctor at least once. Check their vision, check their hearing, check to see if they have parasites, treat them for worms, check if they have anemia, and other stuff. Make sure they're healthy. Get nutrition counseling, ensure that the boys are eating properly. Because you want a healthy man. A healthy man does not come when he's 40. A healthy man comes when he's born. And you try to tell that. Okay? And so they will have challenges. What happens? Boys in the adolescent year, once they start in the old adolescence, one with all that testosterone, they start with the risky behavior. They smoke, they drink and drive, and they drive fast. So most of the people who die by alcoholic accidental death are boys, are men, younger men for that matter, right? Because we feel invincible. That's how it is. That's just what testosterone does until they start settling 20, 30. By the time you get to 20, 30, you still have to ensure that there's exercise and still eating properly. And they start looking for stuff in the world. We have to consider also one of the things that we don't talk about a lot of it, is just grooming. You keep yourself from being untidy and cutting your hair and cutting your nails and taking a shower or two every day and keep it, make sure your clothes are always clean, that you don't smell a perspiration. Those are all things related to how you recognize and your health. Because you don't want to go outside being dirty and nasty. It's not good for your mental, for you mentally when people scorn you and bully you and all the rest. So teach them about it. You don't have to be wealthy. You don't have to be wear we call it fancy designer clothes. You don't have to Tommy and all of that, and Adidas shoe and Nike and all the rest. But your shoes must be clean, and your socks must be washed every day, and those kind of stuff. Those are values we have to get. Because when you start working, you're going to have to go to work to get clean underwear and clean vests and clean shoes and shirt, and your collar mustn't be dirty and all the rest of it. Because all of that contributes to your well-being. Your well-being. 20s, 30s, a lot of guys, many of us, take on the gym. One of the things that's happening now that didn't happen when I was a teenager, that we see a young men getting bald earlier, right? Am I right?
Yes.
So, is it because our nutritional state is lacking? Are we eating properly? Because the baldness comes on when your testosterone level starts going down. That's what they say. So, is it that we're not eating properly? Are we grabbing and going, or are we sticking to our natural, eating proper foods, proper nutrition? And there's no lack of good food in Grenada. We buy convenience foods because they're there and they're easy to prepare. Pasta and that horrible ramen and that foolishness that people can't figure out why people do that because it's just paper. But there's vegetables. We go to the market, we have a plethora of vegetables. We have pumpkin, we have 1 billion tons of pumpkin. Eat pumpkin, get pumpkin done. When pumpkin finished, potato comes in. And it's, we eat proper volumes and we make sure it's as diverse as possible. So those are the things we have to ensure up to the 20s and 30s. Because after that, then we start to see challenges, okay? The challenges in our health tend to come after the 40s. So, what do we look for? Cardiovascular health. But you should be checking your pressure from in your 30s. Every year, at least once a year, you should be doing that. No, just get a blood pressure check, a regular blood pressure check. If you know there's diabetes in your family, you can start to check your sugar. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? Prostate check, which is one of the other things, people about the midsection health. prostate check, and especially looking for cancer, should start at 40. So at 40, a man should have his first digital rectal examination and his first PSA, the prostatic specific antigen, which is a blood test that helps us to confirm whether we have some changes in our prostate behavior. The important exam is doing the digital exam. I know men feel bad about doing it, but Dr. here will emphasize that more next week. It is important that it's done because sometimes you may have a high PSA and we think it's cancer because the number is so high, but in truth and in fact, we really just that the prostate is enlarged or it's inflamed. And by simply examining it, you'll understand that, yeah, this is not a cancerous, it doesn't feel like a cancerous prostate because you don't always feel it.
Well, I mean, there's no. I don't know. I have done mine. In fact, only recently again, I do my medical, and when you do these things, and your medical report comes out pretty good, you feel good about yourself.
Yeah, but the thing is, okay, so men simply do not access healthcare as often as women. It's not a priority for them. Okay? They don't have no real reason, but they do have some reasons. So like in our environment, for example, the men have said that they don't go to the doctor or they go to the health center because the nurse didn't know their wife and she go tell them what they see. Oh, please. Nurse won't even remember that she saw you. And nurse is sworn to confidentiality. She has no right to tell anybody what she's seen when you came, nor does the doctor. So if you come to my office and you have 3 gray hairs on your eyelash, that's your business. I don't care. I won't even remember who eyelash I saw 3 gray hair on my part, but the bottom line is I don't care. And your wife knows that she mustn't ask me the question. I'm going to tell her that's none of her business. She wants to see she could ask you, right? But men fear that you're going to talk. Somebody's going to see them or going to tell them. Also because they look like they're weak. You go to the health center, they're going to do health center. Man, you're a strong man. And that's not necessarily true. Also, men get up and go to work early, and because it's not a priority, whereas a woman will take a day off to go to the health center, men don't do that, okay? Well, men who are less interested, most men don't do that. Some men do. I'm taking a day because I'm going to the doctor. I'll get to work late, I have a doctor's appointment. But a lot of men, most men don't do that because it's really just not a priority. What we know is that men end up in hospital more than women, and that men end up dying when they go to hospital more than women, because by the time they get to hospital, the disease is already so severe or advanced that sometimes they will die. And like I said, what is sad about the whole thing with men's health issues is that men will die from disease that we can prevent.
Right.
High blood pressure and its complication, heart disease, prostate cancer, lung disease from smoking, arteriosclerosis from tobacco and eating badly. Those are preventable diseases. And then we get very sedentary, especially when we get into our 50s and 60s and the hormone levels start to go down. Then we start to lose muscle and it gets replaced by fat. You know how that goes, right? The men get pot-bellied, their arms, they don't look so muscular anymore, right? Their legs get thin and all the rest. But you're going to have an exercise routine. You're not going to look like a 20-year-old when you're 60, but you can look like a healthy 60-year-old. And that's what's important, right? So, yes, the testosterone will go down. And by the time you're mature enough to be like, I don't need to be speeding on my motorbike. As a matter of fact, I don't need to be riding on my motorcycle anymore. Right? And if I do, I'm certainly going to wear my helmet, right? But the bottom line is that men don't access care early enough. Last week, 2 weeks ago, one of my friends passed away, and I was looking for her obituary. And in the 10 obituaries between her, before I found hers, there were 3 men in the 40s who had died. I'm like, why are 40-something-year-old men dying? And granted that there might be the 3 40-year-olds who die for the whole of the month or the whole of the year. But the bottom line, here out of 10, I have 3 40-somethings, a 42, a 45, and I think a 44-year-old who died, who were in obituaries. Those are things that make you think, right? Those are things that make you want to say, how can we encourage, how can we support our men? first of all, men have to support them. Men have to support each other. They have to encourage each other. They have to talk about these things. This is how they talk about horse racing and what number to get in the lottery and how the girls look and what car you're getting and playing jab and the politics. We can talk about, we can encourage our men to talk about the issues that affect our health. And so you have to educate them. You have to work with them and create environments where they will, feel free to seek help and ask questions.
Right, excellent. No, I have to agree because you hear a lot of these stories, and I recall in particular there was a gentleman who lived close to me some time ago, and he eventually died. He had an issue. He was suffering from some headaches, bad headaches, and he was encouraged to, go visit the doctor. And he felt, no, I don't need to go. That is going to pass. And in a matter of days, he went into a coma. They tried to fly him out, and that was it.
What did he have?
Well, I didn't question too much, but it was just related to me, But, I'm just saying this to say that sometimes when things pop up, instead of visiting a doctor to, be certain that is not something serious, you take it for granted that I'm a man and I can handle that and I can deal with it, and so it's going to go away. It doesn't always work like
that. We
that.
tell our boys, go and deal with that. Yeah, man, you're strong. Stop crying. Come in front of me. Right? We tell them, go away. Go and deal with the champion boy. That's how we train them not to understand that they deserve the compassion, that we want to support them in everything they do. Right? We don't train them that they must be able to transition through and understand what emotions they're experiencing. You want to try to start crying because his toy breaks. You have to ask him, why does it hurt so bad? What about the toy that hurts? Mm-hmm. So you understand how he feels when his girlfriend leaves him, so he doesn't turn to drinking and driving recklessly and dying from suicide. Because he's able to transition and to seek help, to talk to someone because he understands why he's having the emotions. But, suicide is, again, a big problem in our lives. Most of our people who commit suicide, who die by suicide, are men.
Yeah, I remembered a couple of years ago, we had about, 3 or 4 suicides in a particular area, and it became of serious concern, so much so that some of our religious leaders, they went to have a prayer vigil, I think it was, in the area.
But that alone is not going to solve the problem. Suicide is a real thing. Mm-hmm. Suicide is a real thing that's related to mental illness. And we have mental unwellness. You don't necessarily have to be severely ill. But depression is also very present. And that's one of the situations we have to learn to deal with our men, that they don't know how to handle it. I remember after COVID, after when COVID just started, after that the first big old breakup, the first surge last year in the summer, I went to talk to some workers, and they just couldn't understand. And I said to them, you have to look out for your comrades, your colleagues who are there, who become very isolated, who just don't know how to handle this. And one guy came and said he was concerned about one of the guys because, he was just always so down, and, a lot of, people, the girl left them because they couldn't visit, and other guy take over them girls. That's hard for men to deal with. It's just hard for men to deal with, regardless of how people feel. And instead of us saying, why you get to bank and all this, we need to understand that people are having genuine problems dealing with loss and embarrassment of your girlfriend leaving you for somebody else who might be your friend, by the way. But, and the rest of us tease without understanding the emotions that person is going through. Without saying, how do you feel about this? How are you coping? That's what we need to ask instead of teasing. How are you coping? Man, I noticed you're drinking by yourself now. I don't think you're doing very well. Let's get some help too. You really need some help to deal with this problem. You don't.
You see, and I think it goes back a bit to our levels, in terms of our understanding, our analytical ability, and how we perceive things. Because so you see a guy drinking by himself, and he's maybe in a corner, and he's soft, and that's the kind of thing. And so sometimes I believe there's some work that needs to be done as it relates to the ego of men, because I think it can come wrong to harm us later on.
Yeah, but we have to give men a space. Men just don't have that space. They don't feel safe. We have to start to create safe spaces so they get to understand it's okay. I can do this. You understand? We have to make sure that there's, and I'm not coddling the men, I'm just saying let's make sure that there's equity. Because equity might mean that they might need a little more than the women in order to be at the same place. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying there's equality. Everybody has access to the health center. Everybody has access to whatever access. Everybody has access to medications. But men have other things that keep them back, like their behaviors, like the fact that they don't think anything could be wrong with them. So we have to figure out how are we going to solve the problem of people not accessing the care they deserve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How are we going to solve the problem? How are we going to get men to understand that you have a right to this? How are we going to do this?
What about the fact that the actions of some men, for whatever reason, affects the health of others? And I'm talking here generally, the whole issue of rape and abuse and all of these things, domestic child, all of that. Yeah,
But remember that men are also victims of violence, okay?
Yes. But generally you find men are more on the transmitting end of it.
So they're often more the perpetrators.
Yes.
Right. And again, because we have not been able to regularize or regulate. Okay? If you go up in an environment where your father beat your mother, trust me, you're going to beat girlfriends. You're going to beat girls in school because there's nothing wrong with hitting a girl. Right? So there are a lot of problems that we have to see. But remember that men also, because of that risky behavior, that kind of uninhibited behavior at times, men inflict more violence upon men. The murders are most often on men. Okay? Violent crimes like stabbing and shooting and beating up and breaking your hand and all of that in interpersonal conflict is often a result of men on men. Not that men don't hit women, but men fight with men a lot and they do a lot of damage.
Actually, that's a very, very interesting point you just made. You mentioned conflict, the issue of conflict resolution, not being able to resolve conflict in a good way can affect men's health. You just made reference to a number of it.
It does, in fact, and think about it. All of us sit down by the rum shop. I'm a boy, okay? And we all sit down by the rum shop one Saturday evening, right? And John Doe comes up. And then he drink too, and then he gets a little drunk, and he start to cause, and you say, come on, this is not a place for this. Come, we playing dominoes, just leave it alone, okay? And he gets on, and and eventually he stabs you. I didn't kill you, but he stabbed you, or he chopped you, pull him cutlass out of your waist and ass you and chop piece of your shoulder or something. Do you understand what that does to me? Visually? Do you understand the trauma I experienced? Think about it.
Yeah, that's...
Right? So men experience as much trauma, especially if they're out there with men, seeing... I'll give you an example. I'll give you a story, something I experienced when I lived in Montego. It was Valentine's Day, and my girlfriend was a florist. She was a very big florist in the city. And I went to her house, and I was coming to city. I said, let me do some of your deliveries in town. Got to the van, did a delivery, and got into my car, and just it looked like Christmas Eve. Just a whole lot of people on the sidewalk waiting for a taxi and stuff to go home. And then these guys, 3 guys are running after another guy, and they all have these sawed-down cutlasses, like big long knives, and they're running. And I remember the guy who they were pursuing fell on the ground. And people started screaming and stuff, and got up and he ran. It's funny because I worked on the emergency room at that time, okay? That's where I worked at that time. And I lived about a minute and a half drive from there to get home from the top. I just drove, right? Scared like hell. And I got home, and half hour later, I called the ER and asked whether anybody had come, whether they had any trouble. But apparently, the guy ran and they didn't catch him, right? But I went home and I stood under the shower for half hour. I kid you not.
Just the thought of what may have happened.
Just the thought, just what I saw traumatized me intensely. If our men are constantly exposed to that, how do they process it? Do they need as much interventions as I do? Are we providing those interventions? Do they understand that they need those interventions? Okay? So here are men walking around with all this trauma, all this pain, and that they don't know how to process. They don't know what is good, what is not good. All of them just saw this thing. It's not, oh, that's not real. Oh, they just don't know what it is. And they keep putting it and stacking it down and stacking it down. And it becomes too much emotionally for them. And they continue to drink, and they continue to smoke, and they continue to just don't take care of themselves because the rest of life doesn't seem so very important. The rest of life doesn't seem so very important. So just continue to do what they're doing. So that's one of the things we have to deal with. Interpersonal violence, just violence. How violence affect our men, whether they're perpetrators or whether they're victims. Okay? Either way, they're affected. One of the other things is the whole issue of mental health. Now, the studies in the US show that 90% of crime that is committed occurs under the influence of something. And that 70% of the people who come into the penal system actually have mental health issues. Are we screening our men for mental health challenges? Are we getting psychological evaluation of the people who go into jail, especially the repeaters? Are we trying to figure out what about them, right? What is it about them that makes them just do crimes over and over and over? What it is. Remember that guy that killed that tourist in Las Vegas?
Yeah.
And he had just come to jail because he had some or something, right? And he's back in the jail. Do we just allow for the recidivism? They come and they go, they come and they go. Are we trying to figure out what is going on here and ensure that people get proper care? And is it because he's probably known to be mentally, we just don't care anymore? Because one of the challenges is that we don't care about our mentally ill generally as a population. We do not. There's so much stigma attached to it. We don't want to be attached. We don't want to be recognized as even knowing somebody who has mental illness. And if a man thinks he has mental illness, he's not going to reveal it. One, because he doesn't want to be ostracized. Two, because he's too macho to have anything like that. Depression, that can't catch me.
Right. Doc, let's take our final break. When we come back, we'll open our telephone lines and engage our listeners and viewers. Stay with us, folks. We'll be back in just a moment.
Prosperity really matters to you. Come home to Grenada Cooperative Bank. Since 1932, we have shared the same values: financial diligence, investing with prudence, transparent compliance, consistent performance.
Welcome home, Grenada.
No matter the economic climb, we always stand the test of time.
Welcome home, Grenada, the bank that goes the extra mile. Welcome home, Grenada, the bank that serves with a smile.
Welcome to a bank you can truly call your own. Grenada Cooperative Bank.
We care because you matter.
Co-op Bank. Welcome home.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so glad to see peace
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
If there was ever a time to keep and stay healthy, it's now. We at Hills and Valley are here to help you take deliberate steps to maintain your health. We stayed true to maintaining the most comprehensive rates while stocking the widest range of medicines and health devices, including personal protective equipment. There are so many benefits shopping with us. You get great savings through discounts for senior citizens and reward cards for loyal customers. Ask about owning yours today. Visit us at Halifax and Grenville Street, St. George, Jubilee Street opposite the Grenville Bus Terminal, and at Hillsborough, Carriacou. Our wholesale distribution on Halifax Street also stocks the widest range of pharmaceuticals. We are with you on the hills and in the valleys. We are Hills and Valley Pharmacy.
Distributed by Calico Trading, frequently St. George's. Telephone number 439-9239.
Here is a little known fact. There is only one place in Grenada that you can get an MRI scan done. That place is Speysile Imaging Center. Yes, Grenada, that's the truth. Other centers could offer you other scans, but Speysile Imaging provides an authentic MRI scan. Here's another little known fact. Speysile Imaging has 3 centers. We operate at Grenville, the Carnage, and at the Ocean House, Grandlands. We provide the widest range of laboratory tests and services. CT scans, x-rays, mammograms, ultrasounds, and a host of other services. We are fully staffed by a team of family doctors and specialists. Call us today at 444-7679. or 406-1500, or visit any of our 3 locations. Speysile Imaging, from seeing the doctor to getting lab tests, scans, and pharmacy services. We are here to take care of you.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Doctor and Call. So our telephone line is open, folks. The number 435-2041. If you have any questions you would like to ask the doctor, you can definitely do so. The number again, 435-2041. All right, that's the number to get in onto the program with your questions or your comments or whatever, however you would like to contribute to the program. 435-2041. So, Doc, we just spoke of the issue of violence and how that can definitely interfere. I want to ask you about the effects of accidents, but we have a caller on the line. Let's take that call and we'll come back. Doctor and Call, good evening.
Good evening, Doc.
Yes, good evening, caller.
Good evening, Godfrey. Right, just a simple question, Right. Okay, we breathe through our mouth and through our nose, right? Now the question, my simple question is, Doc, right? We breathe through our nose, and if we have something across our mouth and our nose, right? Breathing, and I want to know from the doctor if this barrication, right, that behind our nose and our mouth, if this thing restrict any air going to our lungs. If this varication, that across our nose and our mouth restrict any air to any extent going to our lungs. Thank you.
Thank you, caller.
Can you repeat that, because there's a echoing that I couldn't hear clearly what he said.
Yeah, he was asking about, I'm not sure I quite understood, but he was asking about, I don't know if he's referring to the area of the nasal passage that takes us back.
About wearing masks and because what I barely heard something like, if you're wearing a mask, if your nose and your mouth are covered, does it bother the air that gets into your lungs?
Yeah, something to that effect, yeah.
All right, so, I guess a lot of people, first of all, we don't wear masks 24/7. Nobody wears a mask for the whole day, first of all. Second of all, you wear a mask when you're in public, when you're among other people, and that's not your entire day. Second of all, surgeons have been wearing masks in the operating theater for 10 hours. You stand up and they're doing a surgery for 10 hours and you have a mask on. And you have to have a mask on. And your nose and your mouth must be properly covered, lest you sneeze or blow germs into your patient's belly or brain or wherever you're operating on. So I don't think it's a problem. And like I said, we don't wear masks for the whole day. And what we know is that the masks decrease the coronavirus by 50% from getting into your body. So that's what we do. But like I said, we don't wear a mask every day. And if you wear a mask correctly, you're better off. And if you feel that you wear a mask too long, you kind of need to remove yourself from the large crowd for a while and take a break.
Yeah, I would definitely think so. Okay, so Doc, the whole issue of accidents, because we know what can happen when we get into an accident, whether we're driving or if you're a pedestrian and you get hit, whatever, you're riding a motorbike or bicycle or whatever it is, those things can create problems. Let's talk a bit about that as it relates to men's health. And yeah, there's accidents that happen.
Well, accidental death is the principal cause of death in adolescents and younger men, like men up to their 40, right? Whether they fall from a tree and break their neck, or they fall off the bicycle, or they, you hear 3 teenagers on Long Island always happen every year, 2, 3 of them die in crashes, right? Remember we talked about the testosterone and that disinhibition. You feel you're invincible. But also, just the speeding thing is a risky behavior that comes in adolescence. They just feel like they can do anything, any old how. People, you have to wait until the front of your brain develops properly. The frontal lobe takes a little time to develop, and until it's developed, your executive thinking tends to be a little warped, okay? That is how you make decisions, how you decide whether yes or no, how you're going to be inhibitive in your actions according to the societal laws. Mm-hmm. And in our case, we have a lot of alcohol. We have access to alcohol. I heard you talked about young people drinking alcohol. Actually, they can arrest you because you're in a place where minors are drinking, so they don't know if it's you give them. The law states that no one is allowed to procure, to access, to get, to buy for, to give alcohol to somebody under the age of 18. That's the law.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whether we enforce it or not, because we talk about alcohol and we talked about how your grandmother gives you fruit cake from your little and it's laced with alcohol. When you finish, you go and sleep because you can't even talk. Right? So we give our children have a lot of access to alcohol. But if you drink, by the time you have a drink and a half, 2 drinks, your reflexes start slowing down. Your thinking starts slowing down. We're not even talking about where your speech is gone. We're thinking about being able to stop when you need to stop, being able to see that there's 2 lights and not 1, all those stuff. And then already you're disinhibited. Alcohol will further remove inhibitions, okay? So if you want to get in an accident, if you're driving home slowly, the likelihood of you dying is less. Unless even if you're driving to a truck that's parked, but the likelihood of you dying is less than if you're speeding, and you're most likely to speed if you're a young male, right? And like I said, the alcohol, the disinhibition, and all that testosterone going on, because accidental death is a principal cause of death among our young population, and of course, suicide is also very often occurring in our young population.
Right, and also men encounter falls and stuff like that, which do lead to death in a lot of cases.
If you drink, you will trip yourself and fall down and hit your head, and you will die. Or you fall when you cross the river to go home, and then it's happened. We know everybody have a story like that in Grenada. The guy who crossed on the river, the man who fell by the shop, or somebody hits you. And you fall and you're dead.
You fall from a building.
You fall from a building, you're up there drinking, you're working, drinking on the job, and you're a carpenter, or you fall down the stairs, So, and then of course, consumption of alcohol causes brittle bones, So
brittle bones, okay.
So you're actually even more likely to have a fracture. And if it's your head, your skull will fracture, and you can die.
What is the connection between alcohol consumption and liver disease?
So alcohol is metabolized; it's broken down in the liver, and so it passes through your liver twice in its digestive process. One, when it passes alcohol, and the second time when it comes as glucose, when it's broken down, right? If you continue to consume a lot of, you overwork your liver, and your liver would actually become like, you get fatty liver. When you buy a piece of meat and you see the white fibrous thing, the liver cells, the normal liver cells disappear and become just fat or like fiber. So that's cirrhosis. And liver, although liver regenerates itself, if you damage the liver too much, you're not going to get any liver. You're not going to have liver. And the liver has most enzymes. Most of the enzymes for most of the activities occur in the body. If you damage your liver, you're not going to be able to survive very well. Your liver fails. And there are other things with alcohol and liver disease. You can also get very enlarged veins along your what's called your gullet, your esophagus, and that can cause bleeding and death. And a lot of us have cirrhosis already. So if you have cirrhosis already, you would have malnutrition related, because some of your foods are not going to be properly digested because you don't provide the enzymes for digestion and all the rest of it. And of course, we want to talk about nutrition, malnutrition in men who drink. So we eat mostly for energy, but we also teach ourselves to eat well for good nutrition. So when you eat breakfast, you might have an omelette that has some kale or some spinach, you get me, right? And a slice of toast, a cup of coffee, let's say, or toast, or whatever. Or you might have a bowl of, lunchtime, a bowl of pea soup, a lot of green peas, gungo peas, pigeon peas, right? With some meat in there, and some carrot or pumpkin, whatever else you add in there, right? And a piece of meat. Or you'll eat a bowl with rice and peas, or a bowl of fig and salty sauce, and some salad on the side, right? Or oil down, you put a whole lot of green food in there. When you're an alcoholic, you don't really need that, because all the energy you need is offered to you instantly through the alcohol. Because when the alcohol goes to the liver and it comes back and give you all that energy, right? It's already sugar when it's broken down. But apart from that, nutrition, think about it. If you're diabetic and all you consume is alcohol, how are you going to be able, if you have diabetes and you're consuming only alcohol, how are you going to be able to control the sugar? Okay? So it's all interrelated, right? And so you don't want in your 30s, in your 20s to start drinking when you know your father, your mother, everybody has diabetes, right? And by the time you're 30, you also have diabetes, but you've been drinking for so long, and you haven't been going to the doctor, and your sugar is up there, and your kidney already have issues, and your heart already has issues, even as a 30, 40-year-old. Those are the challenges that men face because they consume more alcohol than we do.
You know, another thing about men and alcohol, and I've heard it and seen it many times, men who are drinking alcohol, heavy alcohol, and I'm talking rum, there's this myth that they have to use salty stuff, and that is supposed to cut the rum or prevent them from getting drunk. Doc, let's talk a bit about that.
It probably works, and not that alone, they also eat. I remember my friends in Jamaica talking about eating party meal, and those guys would drink a lot of rum. Okay, it's funny because I would hang with a group of people, and everybody drank except me. And I remember us going out, and I would have. Remember when Cannon made these apple cider drinks?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'd have an apple cider just at the medical school, and I'd have and I remember this one guy teasing me. And we go to this restaurant or this place they see, this hangout place, like a sports bar. And I ordered an apple cider, and he said to the guy, yeah, bring Dr. Nixon's apple cider in a nursing bottle, in a nipple bottle. I was unmoved. Mm-hmm. And he said to me one day, despite how much we tease you, didn't move. But I don't drink, okay? But those guys will drink, and they will eat a heavy meal with fat, a heavy meal like ackee and saltfish and that kind of stuff, food and fat, mm-hmm. Because it takes a longer time for the pass through the liver so they don't get drunk, because the fat blocks for the absorption goes. But in consuming all that fat and in consuming the salt, you're putting yourself at risk for developing high blood pressure, or complicating diseases like having high cholesterol, because they're asking men to check your cholesterol at 35. By 35, you should be doing cholesterol screen. So if you're out there drinking and eating all of the fatty foods before you go and eating a lot of fat and eating crap, and they're showing now that too much carbohydrates also can make your cholesterol elevated. Mm-hmm. So in order to control the carbohydrates, not only your cholesterol, not only do you have to cut your sugars and your starches, not only do you have to cut the fats that you eat, the animal fat, you also need to cut your
sugars. Mm-hmm.
The sugars and your starches that come from an animal source.
The number is 435-2041, folks. If you have any questions you would like to ask, you can definitely do so. Or if you like to comment or contribute in any other way, you can definitely give us a call. The number again, 435-2041. Doctor,
So I wanted to talk about screening, mm-hmm. because I think men tend to shy away because they think it's a big thing. It's not rocket science, but it's very, very important. I just want them to know that it's very important. Screening is really moving the curtain to make sure that nothing is there. Mm-hmm. Right? And that if it's there, it's so minuscule, it's so small, so insignificant that you can fix it. So, like I'm saying, you need to start checking your blood pressure. And so from your 20s, 30s, that's screening for hypertension, okay? Checking your blood pressure every so often. Go to the nurse or the doctor, or if you have a machine at home, because most of us have electronic machine at home, make sure you fit it appropriately. And you sit and wait for 5-10 minutes, and you sit on, cross your legs, and be relaxed, your hand up at the level of your heart, and you take your pressure. The pressure is not supposed to go over, you say 130 over 80, I ask my patients to stay under 120 over 80. So the top pressure shouldn't be more than 120, and your bottom pressure shouldn't be more than 80. That is normal blood pressure, right? Once it starts to go up, you have elevated pressure. When you get to 140 over 90 and 140 over 100, you already have high blood pressure, okay? But if you screen, if you keep looking and see, if you have one reading, that is not hypertension. You have to have 3 separate readings on different occasions and compare them, right? That is how you diagnose hypertension. So you screen early for high blood pressure. You start screening early as you can, especially if you have risk factors, like if you're obese, if you drink, if you smoke, and if you have family history of diabetes, you need to start screening early. If you have a family history of strokes and all those things, you need to start screening early, because that is what diabetes and hypertension will cause. Make you have strokes and make you die. Why do we want to do all this? We really want to make sure that our population, our men, don't die from things that they have control over. There's no need to die from the things that we can control, but we have to make an effort to control them. Mm-hmm. We have to make an effort to fix ourselves so that these diseases are not part of our lives. And even if they're there, we have control over them. And then when you get to 40, you go to your prostate exam. A prostate exam is a digital exam where the doctor examines the rectum to feel the size and the consistency of the prostate. Trust me, after the first time, it becomes no big thing. Trust me on that one. A lot of people, there are a lot of taboos, and men feel, insecure about it. Go to your female doctor. It's easier for you if you feel bad, if you don't want a man to do it. But after you've had your first prostate exam, it becomes easy peasy, doesn't it? Doesn't it, Godfrey?
Yes, indeed.
First exam, yes.
Yeah. Someone is. I was just on our WhatsApp platform. Someone is saying, and I believe it's an officer of the law, who says, "Good evening. The law re alcohol also state that alcohol must not be sold to any child under the age of 16 years except in a sealed container." She also says, "Be mindful of the term sealed. Example, a beer, etc. does not have a seal. Also note the age as 16.
Oh, good. I thought it was 18 because that's the last thing I read, unless they've changed it. But 16 is the age of consent, right? In some cases.
Right.
So that's for the public. Yes, sealed. So I can go and buy a bottle of, I can send my 12-year-olds to the store to buy a bottle of Clark's Scott once it's sealed.
Not 12. You must not be under the age of 16.
Unless it's sealed.
I am getting the feeling, because she said the law also states. So I may have to look into it and see more of it. Saying the law re alcohol also states, I get the feeling that's in addition to something else. And so maybe we may have to consider the something else here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we are talking about screening. So once you've done prostate by 40, you really should do a prostate screen every year, especially if you have a family history. Now, I want to tell men this. So the normal reading for PSA, a prostatic specific antigen, is 0 to 4. But you have to start from somewhere to get up to 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to depend on how fast you get to 4. So if I saw you last year and your PSA was 0.6, and this year your PSA is 3.9, I'd be concerned.
That's too quick.
That's too quick. And so what we ask is ensure that you might, or maybe still under 4, but you watch the progress. You do it and you watch the progress. That's what we do. Because remember, it's slow growing, right? It's a slow growing tumor, very slow growing. And most men over 80 are believed to have prostate cancer anyway. But that's what Dr. A able to deal with. Now, if you do your prostate test every year, it should be serial, okay? It can't just be one. Of course, if I do a PSA and it's 6.5 and your prostate is enlarged and a failure to nodule, I would worry, okay? I would be concerned and make sure you get follow-up. But we have to keep on doing it. And one of my friends who had prostate cancer said, I've been doing my PSAs. Two of my friends who have had prostate cancer, they've been doing their PSAs. And in doing their PSAs, it got over to 6 and 8, and they went to the doctor because they were concerned. No, because after the first examination, they were just doing PSAs. I have another patient who was under 50, who was very, very strict about his medicals. He called me and said he had moved from overseas, and he said to me, guess what? Tell me about all these PSAs. I said, what happened to your PSA? He said, well, my PSA is like 4.9 or something like that. I said, really? What's the PSA the year before? It was 3 point something. I was the year before. Oh, it was 1 point, so I said, I need to see you. It turned out that he did have prostate cancer.
Right.
And has had his surgery and everything. So, but he's fine. He hasn't had to take chemotherapy or radiotherapy or anything. He's quite fine. His PSAs are 0 most of the time because he's had his prostate removed. But we have to become, or men have to become that kind of vigilant for their own well-being. And we have to help them to understand that the vigilance is going to make a lot of difference. Watch out for it. Make sure you don't come to the door. Just how you sit on a machete and wait for teeth, you sit and wait to make sure they still don't come in. Dealing with it early. Cutting the neck out very early. That's what we want to do. And then screening for, prostate cancer is what we do later in life. But of course, we talk about diabetes. The other thing that we have not spoken a lot about is screening for colon cancer, which has become one of our challenges. We haven't spoken of it as much, but screening for colon cancer, you should by 50 years have had your first colonoscopy. Colonoscopy, okay? Colon is a large bowel, scoping at your colon to make sure there's nothing. If you've had a family history, or anybody in your family has had cancer of the colon, you need to get your colonoscopy. By 50, you can do your colonoscopy. Ask your doctor to send you to get a colonoscopy. That's very important because that will save lives. That's also a relatively slow-going tumor, but once it takes through, it takes away. You know, the breakthrough just goes through and it takes our lives. So.
Right. So screening is always very, very, very important.
Screening is the big tool that everybody will have in their hand. I have gone and looked and I have not seen anything. But of course, there's another thing about maintaining normal weight. And of course, we talk about alcohol, excessive use of alcohol, no way. We talk about our diet. We eat a lot of fatty food. When you cook oil dog, you put pigtail, pig snout, chicken back, you name it, right? There's all this fat. And I'm talking the fat from the coconut milk that is supposed to be healthy. I'm talking the fat from the animal source. That is not healthy for us, right? Plus, we put saltfish and smoker in together with all of the other salt food, right? And we eat all of that salt. And then we eat all of that carbs, right? We want to eat one whole breadfruit for me, a breadfruit for the other person, plus I want 6 grain of feed, plus I want some of that dashi that you put in there. And we can eat small amounts. If we eat small amounts, it's equally satisfying and very healthy. And then we do the long, the drinks with all the sugar. You drink a lot of sodas, which are not good for us. We drink a lot of alcohol, we say, which have too much sugar, right? But we drink a lot of sugar-sweetened beverages. Whatever we make, mommy, what do you call it? Wash, whatever you call it, whatever you drink. Ospo juice, we just put too much sugar in our food and in our drinks. So we have to be very cautious. And then we eat a lot of bread, which not only has a lot of refined flour, but also bread has a lot of starch. And I find there's a certain biscuit that we always enjoy from childhood. And I'm like, what is going on here? Just too much salt. So we have to get accustomed to cutting the salt down. And cut the salt down in your food at home. You'd be surprised at how easy that is to do. Just cutting out a bunch of salt that you consume.
Right. Well, Doc, we're getting almost close to wrap up time. So what I'm going to do, maybe we can just sort of briefly just run through what we spoke about, the importance of men paying attention to the health from, of course, the early years right up to maturity.
So I want to tell our men that we need them. Our social life, our economy need men, and we need healthy men. We need healthy men to be fathers to their children. We need healthy men to build our economy. We need healthy men to be drivers. We need healthy men to be ministers of religion, teachers, whatever. We want our men around. We don't want our men dying when they're 30 and 40 and 50. Everybody's supposed to live to 70. After 70, you're considered old.
70.
Yes, but and even at World Health Organization standard, 70 years old is when you become a senior, and if you die before that, you die prematurely. Okay, so once you die before 70, you are considered to have died prematurely. And there are lots of things. I want them to know that the diseases that affect them, hypertension, diabetes, developing cancers and stuff, are stuff that we can go looking for and making sure they're not there. That's how we can prevent them. We can make sure that we come through childhood by getting our vaccines and eating healthy, right? By growing up in healthy environments where there's no violence and there's basic amenities, water, electricity, good road, healthy water, bathroom, electricity to do your homework, access to school, access to taking your child to the doctor. And one of the things we keep forgetting is the whole dental care.
Right.
A lot of people don't use the dentist, and it's very, very important. Unfortunately, our public health system does not have proper adult dentistry, but it does have facilities for children. So let's start taking our children so that when we become adults, they still have all it. Our children, 81% of our children had cavities, and that was 5 or 6 cavities they had, right? That's not good. Not in this time where Colgate is available and toothbrush. You understand? And also how you eat is going to determine the state of health of your teeth. And how the state of health of your teeth is going to determine your state of health. Because if you have no teeth, you can't chew vegetables, right? If you have broken teeth too, you can't chew meat. You can't, there are things you can't chew that your body needs, right? Apart from that, if you have broken teeth, it's possible you have a lot of cavities that bacteria get in there and get into your blood system and cause problems with your heart, especially if you already have heart problems, and cause infections in your kidneys and stuff. That's what happens, okay? So to prevent those diseases, you want to make sure. One of the other things, drinking alcohol has become one of the main risk factors for cancer, especially cancer of the mouth and the throat and the oral cavity and the throat and the stomach. Alcohol is one of them, in men in particular, alcohol is one of the main risk factors for developing cancer. So you want to make sure that you live in an environment. I'm not telling you not to have alcohol, but don't try to empty Clark's Court or Wester Hall. I mean, there's no need to do that. Have a drink, 1 drink a day, and you're good, okay? And be satisfied. If you think you have a problem, seek help, okay? There are some Alcoholics Anonymous programs. You seek help. Trust me. Ask your doctor, how can I get some help? Because there is help, okay? Alcohol, people who go into alcohol rehab, 75% of persons who go into alcohol rehab do not drink again, ever in their lives. So that's how good Alcoholics Anonymous works for its population. Then you want to make sure your childhood eating habits are good, so it's taken into the adulthood. Make sure your child have fruits and vegetables. So instead of buying them sodas, buy them their fruits. One definitely. You remember how you lived as a child?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was. Well, my father would buy 1 Coke. And everybody know that when you're children, you get a case of Coke only when Christmas comes, a case of soda only when Christmas comes, and you get your own soda.
Yeah. Yes indeed.
Yeah, but you don't have to. Why are we buying those colored boxes drinks in the supermarket when we have mango making dog and ghost for wasting and all the other fruits we have? I see mammy apple, I see pawpaw. You can blend them and make fruit drinks for our children and get them to take it to school, like a bottle, and put it in the lunch pan. Yes, we can. So once we teach our children healthy habits, especially your boy children, they will grow those habits, and as men, they will eat equally well. They will demand it from their partners. They'll be the ones who will be leading how their families eat. A lot of vegetables, a lot of fruit, some meat, and a little carb to balance it out. Screening is important. Go and checking your sugar, checking your blood pressure, checking your prostate, doing your colon screening. Make sure that you don't have any disease that you can prevent. And of course, see your doctor every year, getting the blood test done. Look at your blood count. Make sure you don't have anemia. Make sure you don't have other diseases that are hiding under there that can be seen from your blood count. Just do that for yourself, all right? But before we go, I wanted to remind you of, I wanted to invite our men and who are listening to me. This is the 75th anniversary of Presentation College. And Presentation College is a boys' school, and some of people like me, girls participated, especially up in upper school, 5th form, 6th form. We became PBC students. But Presentation College is a school that does very well. It's one of the most excellent of all excellent schools we have on the island. It's probably one of the most excellent schools on the island. And we produce great men. We have our Prime Minister who's a PBC old boy. The leader of the NDC is a PBC old boy. And lots of other people we know who do very well. And in town, you see them every day. They're PBC old boys. But we don't just want them to be PBC old boys. We want them to be healthy PBC old boys. And we want to have a cadre of healthy men building this nation, building a healthy nation. There's no need to have somebody who needs to go on dialysis every week also as a leader. We want to make sure that this doesn't happen. One of the things that is happening as part of the 75th anniversary celebration, you're going to have a men only. Do not bring your nanny, don't bring your granny, don't bring your daughter, don't bring your matey, don't bring anybody except yourself and your male friends. Saturday at Arise a Car Park, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. We're going to be screening, and we're going to be talking about some of the things we spoke today. We're going to talk about health and spirituality. We're going to be looking at violence. We're going to be looking at the other issues of sexual health, erectile dysfunction, which is a thing that men don't want to talk about. The girls are not going to be around when you're talking about it, I promise you. Dr. Yewood is going to be with us on
next week, yeah, he'll definitely be talking about it.
Yewood is going to be with us on Saturday as well.
On Saturday as well, yes. Mm-hmm.
So hear me. This is an environment for men. You get your pressure checked, go ask the doctor. One-on-one. We're going to have enough doctors on site for you to ask questions. If you have any doubts, become involved in the conversations that are occurring. It is very important that you are part of the conversation, a place where men can ask questions freely without judgment. Okay? Because sometimes the decisions that are taken are based on lack of knowledge. And we don't seek knowledge because we're afraid of judgment. Okay? And like I say, some of us are not educated enough to seek the information. But we're heading there, okay? So this Saturday, the 21st May, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., we're going to be doing prostate screening. For those of you, prostate screening is a prostate test, an examination, and a prostate test. We'll be paying for the test for those who have had the examination. We'll be doing HIV testing. I think we're doing sickle cell testing because most men don't get tested because we test women when they're pregnant. We don't test men unless the woman is positive. And then, of course, we're going to do blood pressure and sugar and check your weight and your height.
Right.
And we're going to talk about nutrition. We should have a food display. So I want the men there. You're kindly invited. No women. Thank you very much, ladies. Give the men a break. This is their weekend. Your time soon comes.
Thank you very much, Doc, and we thank each and every one of you for tuning in. We hope our men out there who are listening, you really take this information seriously. And if you have not been doing so, it's not too late to start paying attention to your health. All right? It's very important. You want to live long. We came here to live, not to die. So let's live. And the only how we can live is if we are healthy. If not, we are going to die. Yeah, at some point we will, but we don't want to go before 70, as Doc said. All right? So let's do what we have to do. Let's eat healthy. Find a little time to exercise, even if it's for 20 minutes, but do something. Exercise, get active, Also,
drink a lot of water.
Yes, keep your mind active. It plays a significant role in aging. When you have an active mind, when it helps. All right. So, folks, please pay attention to these things. Next week, Tuesday, Dr. Robert Yewood will be with us. I said so earlier, and we continue looking at men's health and some of the complications. He's a urologist, so we'll be looking at things like prostate and hernias and some of the erectile dysfunction and some of these conditions that affect men. All right, so be sure to join us for that. Okay, so we look forward to seeing you next week. Tomorrow we'll be back, of course, from 6 o'clock. You can join me then. Until then, do have a good night. All the best, Doc. Thank you, and do have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Yes, indeed.
Crawford.